Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone, and I am very excited to give you another opportunity to expand your consciousness by learning the benefits of psychedelics. This is not a opportunity to authorize or identify with this, but for you to know that this is another way for you to regain your connection to all that who you are. I have published in my company, MasonWorks Press, we've published 2 books about psychedelics, using cannabis or using psychedelic cannabis with yoga. And the opportunities for wellness from this time of period of us releasing trauma is immense. So I am so proud and glad to introduce you to Astraeus Amori, who is my friend who has written a fantastic book, who has a presentation for us today. So Astraeus, how are you?
I'm great. It's awesome to be here. Thank you. And I was going to see if you can go ahead and pull up the...
Sure. There we go. Put it all the way up. Okay.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, this is so nice of you to have me on the show. And I just released this book over the weekend, and super excited for people to get their hands on it. For several years, I've been doing field research on how psychedelics can improve sacred sexuality and sacred sexual flow, and more importantly, how we can flow into states of oneness and bliss together. So this isn't a drug about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's a book about how we can consciously flow into states of enlightenment, further awakening, and then flowing ultimately into that state of oneness with our lover. And doing so, most commonly with the legally available plant medicines such as THC, and soon magic mushrooms, as may happen here in Colorado. And so the timing is good. There is a psychedelic renaissance, and I wanted to get this out so that others can move their love life to the next level with various psychedelics in a safe set and setting. I am an integrative functional medicine provider. I've been practicing for almost 30 years. And with that background, I have a lot of knowledge in terms of how these particular plant medicines and synthetic molecules do interact with certain neurotransmitters and side effects, definite drug interactions that can occur with people that are on psychotropics such as SSRIs and SNRIs, etc. So I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the book, and then if anybody's interested in getting it, it's available on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, and there's a website, of course, that goes with it. So you can go to psychedelicsacredsexuality.com to kind of get a little more overview on the chapter content and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I thought we'd just go into the basics today. And thanks again, Kathy, for connecting with me, and I'll shoot away. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about magic mushrooms and some of the other psychedelics, and we can have some questions at the end as well. So a real quick basic book disclaimer, just to let you know, I'm only providing insights and information. I'm not recommending anything discussed. Definitely be aware of the legality of various psychedelic substances such as LSD in particular, and the potential ramifications of being caught with these medications. Also be aware of the psychiatric contraindications such as bipolar being flared up as a result of using psychedelics. And then, of course, we want everyone to be consenting in regards to any type of sexual relationship while utilizing these molecules. I definitely advise that people work with psychedelics on their own for 6 months to a year. They're very comfortable before they then go to the next step if desired, of establishing a psychedelic flow with their lover. So, first, be comfortable with it on yourself in a safe set and setting, preferably with a facilitator, and then move on to the next steps with full consent. So, sacred sexuality, what is it? Sacred sexuality refers to more or less the spiritual aspects of sexuality where sex is a sacred act that can be used for enlightenment, healing, and transformation together. It's often associated with various spiritual practices such as Tantra within the Hindu and Buddhist perspectives, Taoism, and shamanism. It emphasizes the unity of body, mind, and spirit. It can include various modalities such as mindfulness, meditation, breath work, and conscious touch. There are many alchemies, as all of you know, that can enhance awakening and enlightenment. And psychedelics does not have to be one of them, but it's just an option for people that are wanting to more or less accelerate the process potentially. So, some of the other things that can help with enlightenment include meditation, sacred geometry, and nature, dance, and movement, nutrition, lifestyle, and even technology can sometimes help us a little bit. Sacred sexuality versus tantra, and I am not trying to be a tantra expert, and I don't think I will ever be able to become a tantra expert because it's so complicated and layered. And I think everybody that puts themselves out there as a tantra expert oftentimes gets attacked. But I am simply going under the broad category of sacred sexuality, which is a broader, more diverse field that may include some tantra elements, but blends in more modern elements. As many of you know, Tantra originated in ancient India way back in 500 BC, was then adopted to the north towards Nepal and Tibet. Um, the practices were clearly aimed at cultivating awareness and awakening consciousness. It did not have to include sex, and most of the time it did not include sex. Um, Mainly included meditation, ritual, mantra chanting, physical exercises, and could encompass many aspects of life. Now, oftentimes, particularly like in Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind, he introduces the concepts of set and setting. So, what do we mean by set and setting? Set is simply your psychological state before you go into a psychedelic session with yourself, with others, a group, or as a couple. It's kind of your mood, your belief, your expectations, your intentions that you're setting that, okay, I'd love to flow into oneness with you, and I would love to send light and love to the Middle East for healing and peace, things of that sort. Setting is that physical or social environment around you. So, are you in a beautiful place like Star House up in Boulder with sacred geometry and the beautiful forest around you, or are you in an office setting? It can be pretty different extremes in terms of where you decide to do it. Um, and then creating a positive set and setting that has that supportive, calm, safe environment can absolutely increase your likelihood of a positive, transformative experience, while a negative set and setting can increase the risk of, anxiety and negative outcomes. So, how can we flow into sacred sexuality naturally? I think most importantly, we have to let go of our ego mind. We have to open our heart deeply to unconditional love. And we have to be able to feel empathy for one another. We have to flow energies without judgment, honoring and respecting each other as well. We can dance these energies and spiral them together up through our heart and into our cosmos. And by doing so, we can experience ecstasy and flow into oneness. Again, Michael Pollan talks a lot about the default mode network, and this is not some term that he owns by any means. It's a very common term within the neurology fields, and particularly those in neuropsych. And I often talk about it with my patients as well. But the DMN, can be that monkey mind that keeps us from being in flow with our partners. So we're thinking about, oh my God, I've got this, talk I've got to give today, or I've got, these tax reports that I need to work on. So we're out of flow with our partner because we're thinking about the future, or we're ruminating about the past, etc. This area of the brain consists of brain regions that are active in a state of wakeful rest. The key regions of the default mode network include the medial prefrontal cortex, posterior cingulate cortex, and the medial temporal lobes as pictured to the right. We can reduce the DMN influence by meditation, breath work, flow states, and psychedelics. And I would definitely say that psychedelics are the most profound way to reduce your DMN influence and allow you to be present and there for your partner. What are some amazing ways to alchemize, to amplify that sensual and erotic flow? I think tantric massage is amazing and is a great foreplay. Chanting mantras can be very powerful. For example, listening to like Satam Kur, Deva Pramal, and many of the other amazing mantra singers can help you connect, and you can be looking in each other's eyes in kind of a yab yum position while you're chanting. Breath work, of course, sound bowls where you can apply them to the chakras. I'll show you a few pictures of some cool ways to do that. Creating that setting where you may have some aromatherapy, like a Palo Santo scented candle, some additional LED lightings, things of that sort. Maybe going out in the forest and being next to a small mountain stream that's fairly remote. And then, of course, adding in a little bit of plant medicine or some other psychedelics that may even be a little bit more, potent in terms of their effects. And of course, at the end, you can even do some fun things like tying up your lovers. So you can have some fun. You just have to have consent and don't hurt each other, of course. So tantric massage, I think, is an amazing way to share your energy with your lover and then help open them up to the initial stages of flow with psychedelic medicine in particular. I've been experimenting a lot with sound bowl healing. I've always been into working with crystal bowls and Tibetan bowls and tuning forks. I mean, it's just, I have such an assortment of toys. It's pretty insane. But as you can see on the left side, there's a great position that I've experimented with where we can put the bowl on the root chakra of my partner and then on the root chakra of me. And then in this particular image, she would chime the bowl and we would both get just this amazing flow of root chakra energy, helping to amplify the psychedelic experience and connect us more deeply to each other through the root chakra. You can also have each other in kind of a downward dog position and chime a Tibetan bowl right over the root chakra. That's a great way. Or they can lie on their back and you can chime or spin a bowl on their heart chakra, on their third chakra, etc. Those can be very powerful ways to connect to each other. So it's like a sound healing foreplay, I guess. Partner yoga is another thing that I've learned a lot from. There's a gal here in Colorado. Her name is Elizabeth Williamson, and she's has a wonderful book and has also taught me some of these positions. Of course, the first one on the left is the Yab Yum position, not necessarily a partner yoga, but it allows you to connect third eyes and just be present for each other as you're in a deeper state of flow. Having a partner sit on your root chakra is your, in child's pose, I think is what we call that. And then there's some other cool ones like the flying eagle, where you can lift your partner up with your legs and let them have a heart opening experience with their arms expanded. Or you can have this beautiful position where partners can connect to your heart chakra while you're lying down as well. So these are kind of fun things that oftentimes will just come to you naturally. But if you have a chance to look through partner yoga books, you can get some ideas to how you might be a little bit more creative and explore these positions with each other. So how can psychedelics enhance our sacred sexual flow? As mentioned, it really takes our default mode network offline, so we're not monkey minding about the past or the future. It reduces that presence of ego. It can be very heart opening. It hugely enhances your sense to touch, smell, and can intensify your orgasmic release as well. I definitely find that Kundalini flow, root chakra activation is particularly profound. Um, and I would say probably the most profound activators of those would be things like LSD and MDMA, but mushrooms are also right in there. Um, and then third eye opening can be enhanced too. And this can be enhanced by putting your foreheads together and feeling your third eyes connect in that deeper, loving way. What was amazing was just as I was publishing the book, a group out of London published a huge article with 300 people, and they demonstrated um, through these surveys, looking at various psychedelics from mushrooms to LSD to MDMA, et cetera, that yes, indeed, sexual flow and connection is absolutely improved with these psychedelic molecules. So it basically was a rubber stamp of approval on my study of the two of us, expanded to a study of 300 people, showing that, on average, this is on the second bullet, people reported improvements across a range of areas of sexual function up to 6 months after their psychedelic experience, including enjoyment of sex, sexual arousal, satisfaction, attraction, improvements in how they've felt about their own physical appearance, communication, and their sense of connection. So it was so nice to have like a rubber stamp approval from across the pond and in London to have that happen. And that was published in a major journal of the Nature Scientific Reports. So this was not like some lay journal by any means. Additionally, people taking psilocybin, the magic mushroom, in a trial for depression, they found that almost half of these participants also reported improvements in sexual arousal, interest and satisfaction with sex, whereas people taking a antidepressant like Prozac, Paxil, Zoloft, etc., had a decrease in sexual functioning. And that's one of the known side effects that I warn patients about with those type of medications. And one of the reasons I rarely prescribe SSRIs is because of those profound side effects in terms of inhibiting orgasm and sexual pleasure, etc. So psilocybin here in Colorado is being decriminalized or has been decriminalized, and it may be legalized to a certain extent in the near future. We can only hope that that will happen as the Proposition 122 and the particular committee continues to work through the details on it. Several other states have done similar legislation, and you can grow it at home. And if you're caught with mushrooms, it's more or less a slap on the wrist. You don't want to be selling mushrooms, so that is definitely a illegal activity. In terms of the timing for sacred sexual flow with mushrooms, I found about 2 hours after you take 1 to 2 grams is perfect. Everybody's going to be a little bit different in terms of their tolerance to mushrooms, and some of that will depend on the quality of their mushrooms, if it's penis envy or golden teacher, and how much psilocin, the active ingredient, is in there. But start low and then keep a journal so you know what works and what doesn't work. Sensation is hugely enhanced. You'll feel a greater sensation of touch if they're doing tantric massage or kissing or just holding you. Your vision and smell, of course, can be improved. So if you want to have some fruit bowls to eat, you can definitely enjoy some small snacks together. And then if you're an energy worker, you're into Reiki, you'll find that you can flow energy through the chakras more readily. You can feel your energy and you can feel their energy better. And you'll see vivid geometry. That can happen before you're sexual, but definitely when you're having an orgasm, you'll see an enhancement of the geometry, kind of a kaleidoscopic view that many people have with that orgasmic element. Um, and then third eye connection is also improved with it. Now, another legal option is good old cannabis. And Colorado, we have full access to recreation as long as you're of age. You don't need to go to the medical cannabis element to get what works well for psychedelic flow. And I was talking to Daniel McQueen up in Boulder about different combinations, and I did a lot of field research on this, and he enjoys doing more of the smoked version of it. I found that the edible versions are much nicer. You just got to start at a low level so you don't overdo it and end up in the ER. But when you combine the blends of indica, sativa, and CBN to a total dose, I'd say 10 to 12 milligrams works really well, but you may want to start on that lower end, around 6 milligrams total of the three. Um, you get this effect that really enhances your sexual sensitivity, also improves your libido, and will just rocket you into this amazing sexual flow that is just fun and deep and can be kind of wild. Um, so consider that. There is a company here in Colorado called Wana that makes a rapid release one that, so far has been the one that I've found works best. Um, Again, you can get psychedelics with cannabis. Most people think you can't, but if you do the oral in particular, it's more potential. And then if you do this alchemical blend of indica, sativa, and CBN, you're more likely to get there. Um, Neurochemically, dopamine is released from THC, which can increase our libido and make us want to be a little wilder with one another. This can also happen with many of the other psychedelics like LSD as well. Your orgasms will be intensified, and the frequency of orgasms will increase. I found that my partner may have easily 5 to 6 orgasms instead of more like 1 or 2. So it triples the orgasmic response, and definitely does a similar effect for me as well. San Pedro is a shamanic cactus that also called Huachuma, which comes from Peru. Many of you are aware of this one. I think it's important to source it, from someone who's growing it, and not to source it from Peru where they're, depleting the resources and there could be a shortage there. So find someone that grows it in a greenhouse and knows how to prepare it in the mindful, proper way. It is a full day exploration. You're looking at typically 14 hours. The first half is, in my opinion, too intense to be intimate with your partner. But the second half, particularly the final third, can be an amazing opportunity for sacred sexual flow. Because this is a sacred cactus and not a party type of psychedelic, I do feel you need to hold it in a sacred container and with respect. And doing so, I think couples can have an amazing, beautiful flow with it as well. It does allow partners to more readily flow energy from their hands than other psychedelics, more so than mushrooms, more so than LSD even. I have seen amazing portal-like geometry seen during intimate flow as well. And sometimes that portal geometry can be when my forehead's on my partner's third eye. Sometimes I've done wild things where I've put my forehead, my third eye right on her clitoris, and crazy, amazing geometries come in. So, be playful, be experimental, and you'll be amazed at what will come in. And of course, heart chakra is another place to connect your third eye to see what will come in geometrically and see if you do flow into portal-like flow there too. LSD is a serotonin 2 agonist, and as a result can be very heart opening. It's a long acting synthetic, as long acting as San Pedro. So we're looking at 12 to 14 hours. Definitely want to start at a lower dose initially. I'd say 50 micrograms would be the best for people that are wanting to begin with this, and recognize again that initially it's a little intense, but as you're over the hump at about 6 hours, then it becomes very suitable for intimate flow. There's major activation of the root chakra. It will make both of you be on fire, as long as you're attracted to each other, right? And then it can make you very multi-orgasmic as well, somewhat like THC, but even more so. Of course, there's beautiful geometry. Everybody talks about that, the Lucy in the sky with diamonds, right? But yes, please be aware of the legal issues. Do it in countries where it's legal, and be very safe around this, because there can be some major legal implications if you're not paying attention to that. Now, a lot of people, including Nancy Reagan, would say this is your brain on drugs in the frying pan with the egg in there scenario. But the reality is psychedelics improve the cortical activity dramatically, like 10 times fold. So you're actually hyperconnecting neural tracts and neural communication between both hemispheres of the brain, which is why you see more, feel more, smell more. All your senses are enhanced. So it's actually a good thing for your brain. It's not a bad thing, unless you overdo it. What else do psychedelics do? They stimulate brain-derived neurotropic factor, BDNF, which also helps to improve cognition. And some studies are saying it may help prevent dementia, such as Alzheimer's. So more news on that soon. Most of the studies are being done around magic mushrooms and the prevention of Alzheimer's, but I think we're going to see it with LSD and any of these psychedelics for the most part. MDMA is one of my favorites, and MAPS has just partnered with Lykos Pharmaceuticals to legalize it, hopefully by this fall, coming fall, or later in the year. Who knows, right? It will then be available for the treatment of PTSD and other issues as approved. Most people, of course, are utilizing it in the non-pharmaceutical background, where they may find a chemist who makes a good version of this, or they may find a sassafras derivative called MDMA and utilize it. If you're using it in that street form, it's extremely important to test it for fentanyl, because sometimes it can be laced with that. So there are these dance safe strips that people can order on Amazon to verify its purity. So please be sure to do that, even if it's coming from a trusted chemist in your neighborhood. I think this molecule offers pretty much one of the more profound abilities to merge into oneness compared to the other ones. And it can be combined with magic mushrooms, can be combined with LSD to even amplify that experience and take you there. We call that hippie flipping or candy flipping. Again, it can be used to treat PTSD, and it can be extremely powerful in terms of helping people let go of negative experiences, and then helping couples let go of negative experiences they've had together, or conflicts, and being able to share with an open throat chakra. Hey, honey, I'm sorry I said that, and I love you. And you're kind of in this beautiful, authentic, relating space for at least 4 to 6 hours, where you're able to kind of let all that shit go and then come to a place of love and resolution. So couples therapy with it is great. Intercourse wise, because MDMA has a strong sympathetic stimulation, and can have a big serotonin surge like Prozac or Paxil, it can actually impair a guy's ability to have a good erection for a while. But give it some time. And I think in a lot of ways, it's a good thing, because the guys are forced to just chill out and be in intimate flow and just kiss their lovers up and down and all around. And then maybe at like 5 or 6 hours, then their functionality has returned. And then for women, it may impair their ability to have orgasms because of that serotonin sympathetic nervous overdrive. But for both men and women, once you get past that 6 hours and you do achieve orgasm, the orgasm is like 10 times more intense. So it may take a little more work to get there, But once you do, it is an atomic orgasm. So beware of that. And another little side note, I will say for guys, oftentimes it can be helpful with MDMA if they're open to it to consider G-spot stimulation of the prostate gland to help get them over that hump, because sometimes the usual stimulation isn't quite enough. So something to consider if there's openness around that kind of play. Other powerful plant medicines, of course, include ayahuasca and peyote. I feel those are too sacred to be taken into the sacred sexuality container and should be held in a circle with a shaman. DMT, amazingly powerful molecule. It's such a strong molecule that I feel it's too astral for most people to engage while they're enjoying that. But after they've enjoyed it, I think it can open the chakras and allow for beautiful sacred sexual flow. So, maybe 15 to 30 minutes after. It's a short acting compound. There's amazing aphrodisiac herbs that are out there. Blue lotus is one of my favorites. And I mentioned several of them in the book. Cacao is another amazing one that can have some love molecule effects like oxytocin. And speaking of, I do talk about oxytocin and some of the other peptides that can help with libido and orgasmic response in the book too. I think cacao can be done in a sacred ceremony between two lovers, absolutely. But I think it's good, like all of these, to do a facilitated circle with a cacao shaman or facilitator to know what to feel before you do it with each other. And so, what is oneness and how can we get there? I'm hopeful that many of you have been there into states of oneness, but oneness is that sense of interconnectedness with all things and a dissolution of your sense of self. We also call it unity consciousness. And for me, this is my ultimate goal when I'm going into sacred sexual flow. Of course, I love orgasms, but really the most ecstatic, blissful state for me is to flow into a state of egoless dissolution and unity consciousness. And connecting to flow and oneness, we can do it through the sacred sexuality, as we've discussed, being in that heart open state of bliss. Mindfulness meditation and breath work can help get you there. Practicing gratitude can help move you in that direction. Focus on what you're grateful for, and then you can feel more connected to the world around you. Spending time in nature, of course, and then connecting with others, especially in plant medicine circles. Sharing your insights can help others feel more connected to oneness, just as I'm sharing with you. I'm a huge fan of sacred geometric forms. Greg Hogue up north of Boulder has been a mentor of mine in terms of teaching me about geometric forms, and I utilize them quite a bit when I'm in sacred flow. And I'll hold forms with my partner between our hands, and we'll stare into them to go into deeper states. Sometimes it could be a Merkaba, sometimes it could be a painting like by Francine Hart. Other times it can be this beautiful flower of life that I have out on my property, or I may be just sitting out watching the sunset and tapping into the geometry of everything that's offered from the flower of life. Integration is important, and I think everybody who is in particular working with plant medicines or psychedelic synthetics should integrate, at least the following day, sometimes even that night if they're kind of back to more of a baseline before they go to bed, and then continuing to integrate over the coming weeks what came in, and then to journal any deep downloads they may have had and insights, thus further progressing their opportunities for awakening and ultimately flowing into oneness. And if you want to order this wild and crazy book, it's available on Barnes and Nobles or Amazon. I have a book website, psychedelicsacredsexuality.com. Lots of resources on the resource page with links to various things, sacred geometry, etc. And I have a newsletter, and then you can also email me at Astraeus. It's a weird name, Astraeus at psychedelicsacredsexuality.com with any questions, or you can let Kathy grab any questions and we can field them there. And that's it. Any questions for me?
Well, I do. I have questions. Okay, so one of the questions I have is about different age groups using this, because as we age, our functionality may not be the same as when we're in college or right out of college. Did you have any research or see any research about age groups, especially in the information from England?
Oh, from England. I will have to look and see what the age range was. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I would absolutely say that sacred sexuality does not have to include orgasm, doesn't have to, include, erections and all those kinds of fun things. We can definitely flow there just by going into that ecstatic state, simply by connecting our third eyes together, potentially alchemizing the psychedelic flow with sound bowl healing as shown, by doing tantric massage. And, I'm not even opposed to, I shouldn't say I would encourage, the use of different sex toys, even if they're needed to help achieve orgasm, because oftentimes it can be difficult to achieve orgasm just with intercourse. And as we age, it becomes more difficult. In my practice, we do a lot of sexual health, from hormone balancing to even stem cell injections to help improve sensitivity in the G spot for women and for penile sensitivity for men too. So there are some therapies that can help the aging male and the aging female stay active into their 90s easily. They may not want to do that, and they may just want to keep things simple and be in an intimate kind of tantric sacred sexual flow rather than intercourse, which is fine too. But there are ways to bring ourselves up to being a 30-year-old again.
Great. Okay. Okay. So another question is about scheduling enough time for this. In our busy lives, are you suggesting in most cases that you take the weekend off, or make it a ceremony, a weekend ceremony, or are you that I just a lot of these chemicals seem to take quite a bit of time?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kathy. Yes, I would say depending on the molecule or the plant medicine you're working with. So, for example, psilocybin, the magic mushroom, is about 4 hours. So you could easily do that, say, in the evening for 4 hours. Um, but if you're interested in doing something like MDMA or LSD or San Pedro, that would be more of a full day where you'd probably want to start around 10 and just block it off as a ceremony day. Make sure your phones are on do not disturb, and find a sacred setting that could be up in the mountains or down on the beach, somewhere fun, and consider it a retreat. And I think some of these, particularly MDMA, you can have some fatigue and tiredness after it. And there's protocols where couples will take 5-HTP and N-acetylcysteine to help with the come down. And so it's important to do those like on a Saturday, so that by Sunday you're just kind of chilling out and having a mellow day. And then you're able to go back to work on Monday without any fatigue, and your brain feels online, etc. But yeah, I think we need to do a better job as humans to dedicate time for sacred connection, and to put all this time into watching a Super Bowl or whatever silly things we do in our life, and not giving the time to our lovers. is kind of contrary to what we should be doing. So I definitely encourage people to block off that time. And for me, I make it happen a minimum of twice a month, but would I love to do it every weekend? Heck yeah. So, I do
Oh,
what I
that's
can.
cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, okay, when we're talking about experiencing these chemicals, if we haven't done them before, I haven't done a lot of this. Do you recommend that we go through like Daniel McQueen's? Several of my clients have gone through his sitter school, where you have somebody actually guiding you through your initial experience and expansiveness, um, and helping you integrate that. Do you recommend that first, or do you feel that if there's consensus to just go ahead and try it?
Yeah, another great question. I would definitely say if there's an opportunity to work with Daniel and to learn, in his case, working with cannabis, that is the most ideal way of going. I think it can be done on your own, but you definitely need to have some expert recommendations from people. Reading my book will definitely serve as a guidebook. But finding a facilitator who specializes in um, psilocybin or magic mushrooms, a facilitator that does THC, another one that might work with the heart opener MDMA, I think is really nice. And they can be a bit expensive, but there's others that are more reasonable. It's been a little bit discouraging to me to see many of the facilitators charging so much these days. And I think, we see that in so many areas where people get greedy about their services and don't find that, balanced approach in terms of what they want to charge for something in this particular arena of mindfulness that I think should be more affordable. But yeah, finding somebody I think is nice, and much of that you can find online. It's not going to say something like magic mushroom journeys, but it might say something of the sort of conscious relating with plant medicine, something of that sort. Um,
Okay,
so
good.
yeah.
Good. So, another question about your soul experience, your oneness experience versus by yourself versus being in partnership. Is there any explanation that you can give us so that someone who's wondering, I think we're seeing right now that there's consciousnesses urging us to wake up, to take our place as a co-creator at a high level. And that's why all the programs that we've had, that are societal programs or gender programs, all of it has to go. But are you seeing that the sacred sexuality is a faster way to self-actualization or a different way? What would you say about that? Because we're being pushed to a different awareness right now, and there's no denying that.
I would say it absolutely accelerates it. And how much does it accelerate it? I mean, some people will say things like, one ayahuasca journey is the, equivalent of 10 years of meditation. That's probably a little bit extreme, right? Um, but I would say you could easily 4x the awakening component of your journey as a result of taking that default mode network offline and then
Mhm.
allowing your crown chakra and your third eye to open up through the modality of DMT release in particular, but also through, again, the release of this constraining, frontal part of our brain that locks us into this monkey mind and doesn't allow us to flow there. And sure, a Buddhist monk who's been at the monastery for 10 to 20 years and is able to go into a high gamma meditative brainwave state can get there. We don't have 10 years or the ability to disconnect and do that. So I think the fastest track and a very beautiful track is to go the route of psychedelics, but doing so in a safe way and in the set and setting and with the right intention to take you there is definitely the critical element of it all.
Great. Okay. And what have you seen any results from yourself or others or in the documentation about trauma release? There's so much, it's not really PTSD, but maybe it would be categorized about that, about sexual encounters or power over the whole male-female trust model. And that could be coming from our ancestors, actually. It could
Right.
be
We can
leading
have
through
those
to
remote
here.
traumas that have come from prior generations. We're seeing that epigenetically in studies now.
Right.
I've seen it. I've had personal experiences where I thought I was having a great journey, and then all of a sudden I have this trauma that's being released. One was one where I realized I was shot in the back by an arrow, and probably not this life, but a prior life, and it was very, very painful. And my partner was able to hold space for me and help me clear it. Likewise, she's had similar instances. So you have to be ready and present to help that individual breathe through it. And if you have the skill set of doing energy work, that can be very powerful. Um, I think for people that have had sexual traumas in this lifetime, it's important for them to work with a facilitator one on one who has expertise in sexual trauma and can help them clear and release all of that before they work with their current partner, so that their current partner isn't stuck in a really difficult situation, not knowing what to do. And there are couples therapists that will facilitate an MDMA journey, for example, even after the partner that's had trauma. And by doing so, they can be there just in case something hits the fan. So yeah,
Wow.
that's such an important question. And MDMA, but the other psychedelics as well, can help you release this shit. And in doing so, you lighten your energy body. You don't have that weight on it. The thorns are pulled out, and you feel like an awakened being that's able to travel to much higher astral realms. So it's hard work sometimes, but you have to be willing to do it and ready for it when it happens. I often like to compare it to being on the edge of a cliff with a wingsuit and having that confidence in myself to jump off that cliff and soar, and and then to deploy my chute and land safely. You have to be bold. This is not for the weak at heart. I mean, I think you can do it in gentle steps to where people that are anxious about it are going to be fine, but oftentimes it's going to be some bigger jumps when you're going into the higher level psychedelics like LSD and DMT in particular.
Right, right. Well, from my perspective, which of course I haven't done what you've done, um, the the opportunity to expand and create oneness can be done in so many different ways, but it can be so disorienting. And I really think this idea of being in union with someone else, where you help support each other, get back into this reality, and create a high functioning relationship from it, really sounds like the way to go. It sounds fascinating.
I agree. And I found that when I journey alone, it can give me that opportunity to go inward, which is great. But when I journey with my partner, I can still go inward, but then I can also share love, and flow into oneness more readily through the union of the divine masculine and feminine. So I think there is more potential for deeper flow. That being said, I do want to emphasize that it doesn't have to be a heterosexual relationship as I'm in. I think that gay couples can also flow into that state as they
Yeah.
may identify with a more masculine or more feminine.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's powerful. And I think people have to realize that, yeah, there are some slight risks to the psychedelics in terms of their, paying attention to the legalities, of course, but also the potential for trauma releases. But the benefits are beyond, beyond, beyond in terms of where you can go with this. So I think
Yeah.
it's all worth it in terms of the travel and the awakening that can happen. And with everything going on in the world, I think it's more critical that we amplify and accelerate our awakening as we prepare for who knows what's going to hit the fan next.
Right, right. Well, us being powerful, non-victimized beings is really a lot of this journey. Would you say that your capacity to focus or your capacity to be creative or other capacities like that have opened up from this work?
Absolutely. And I like to tell my patients when I'm giving them ketamine journeys that we're going to stir up your snow globe. And as we stir up your snow globe, we're going to reorganize your brain. We're going to disrupt some of those thought patterns that may put somebody into a negative rumination or downward spiral. But at the same point, we're going to recreate some connections that will improve creativity and improve your cognition. So I found that I feel sharper, I feel more creative, I feel more passionate, and I feel a lighter energy body as a result of releasing traumas, whether they're micro traumas of listening to the news every day or, something that, you know, irked me. I'm able to clear it. And by doing that on a regular basis, like I said, at least once or twice a month, I feel like it's almost a preventative mental health strategy that keeps me from going into a state of anxiety or depression. And I think there's a huge opportunity for psychedelics to help prevent people from going over the edge and, shooting people at a Kansas City Super Bowl celebration or walking into a mega church, with a gun. I mean, what if we could have gotten those people, working with a plant medicine or an empathogenic like MDMA, they were able to love themselves and love others. They wouldn't be going for a gun. I
Right.
think there's a possibility we could prevent a lot of violence and bring people together and heal the world. But instead we're promoting guns and alcohol and everything else. We've got to reverse that trend.
Right. Well, we're coming into this age of Aquarius where we're going from competition to collaboration. And the trip to oneness is first self love and oneness with yourself and then with others. So this could be a pathway for lots of people. I have another question for you because before we came on, we both were talking about the Pandora star light
Oh,
system. And in the Pandora light systems, there are modules which are LED light patterning that are
you
fantastic,
still
you
there?
guys.
I lost your audio.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. I can hear you now.
Okay. The Pandora star light systems have different calibrations, which can be for LSD. They had all sorts of psychedelics in the lights. Did you
Right.
ever try those and compare them to the actual chemicals?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they have fun ones like Acid Squirrel. I love some of
Yeah.
the names in there. Um, yeah.
I did
Um,
that one and I've done the LSD one on the lights, but I haven't done the chemicals.
yeah. I think it's a great alternative to psychedelics, and because it will photocally entrain your brain to the varied um, gamma, theta, beta brainwave um, frequencies, it can absolutely take you on a journey that can improve your creativity and even treat depression, in my opinion. So it kind of depends on where you want to go with the Pandora, but I think doing one that has a lot of high gamma can be more meditative and relaxing and take you to that higher, more astral space.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
I love those lights. I have to say all of this is there's all different ways to get to this um, uh, integration of self with consciousness. And
mhm.
some people have near death experiences, some people have spiritually transformative experiences, some people do ayahuasca ceremony, the traditional, the original nations type of ceremonies. And what you're offering is another very usable way for people to, without bodily harm, to open up their consciousness and let it into their physical awareness, right?
Exactly. And it's not for everybody, but I'd say most people are gonna do fine with psychedelics if they're just willing to take that step, and be a little insecure as they do their first mushroom journey, for example. And I think the important thing is to recognize that alcohol kills over 100,000 people a year. Guns kill about 60,000 people a year. In magic mushrooms, I don't think there's a single documented death except for maybe one person who, was super high on mushrooms and walked out in front of traffic. So it wasn't the mushrooms that did it, it was their behavior that did it. And most of us are going to be sensible and just be lying down on our couch. So the harm is in the common things that are out there: the alcohol, the prescription narcotics, smoking, driving our cars, right?
Yeah.
There's really minimal to no risk of psychedelics unless you have a strong history of schizophrenia or bipolar, in which it would be contraindicated.
Okay. So you wrote this book because you wanted, excuse me, to document and to share this knowledge with others. Do you want to share anything else about the reason? Because this is a lot of effort on your part to document and share this information. Is there anything else you'd like us to know?
Yeah, well, it took me 3 years to have the boldness to be able to write this because it's a dangerous book to write. Um, but because I've had such profound um, experiences of love and of oneness and deep awakening, I wanted for everybody on the planet to be able to experience that. And it almost makes me cry because I'm like, why am I worthy to have these ecstatic, blissful experiences? And why can't everybody on the planet have at least one experience before they die? And so my thought is, well, if I can even increase that number from me to even 10 people who listen to this talk today or read the book and flow to that state of profound oneness and love, then my mission is done. So it's really about sharing love and oneness and helping other people love each other and to shift the consciousness of the planet such that we're not going to these states of competition and greed and selfishness, but we're going to a state of altruism, compassion, empathy, and then finding a common solution for sustainability on planet Earth. I think we're at a critical time right now. And I truly feel that if we don't shift to the state of love through modalities as I've expressed today within the next few years, that we may only have 10 more years here. We may only have 20 more years here. I just heard today on the news that Russia is going to be putting nuclear weapons, orbiting in outer space. I mean, what does that look like? So there's so many different risks that are surrounding us. And if we don't somehow shift Russia from doing that and find peace in the Middle East and cool off all these other issues from climate change to North Korea to the mass shooters, what future do we have? So the time is
Right,
now,
right,
and this
right.
is a small drop in the bucket for love, but a meaningful drop in the bucket for love, right?
Right, right. Well, and I want to echo that because we really, the more conscious people there are, the higher frequency. It's like the 100th monkey, where there is a tipping point where the consciousness of all humanity becomes not just human but humane, and
Hmm.
we change the world. We just had World Sound Healing Day yesterday, where the Goldmans, Andy and Jonathan Goldman, who live here in Boulder with us, they
Right.
they
They're
they say
amazing couple.
heal yourself, heal the planet, heal yourself.
Yeah,
And that's what you're talking about, is take a opportunity to be a part of the solution, and vibe higher, where there's higher purpose, higher opportunities for problem solving, and changing the narrative here, instead of the fear narrative, the fear virus
I
that is
agree. And
running.
I listened to Jonathan and Andy yesterday, and
Yeah,
just a short period of time between patients, I heard them talking about the global consciousness, research going
yeah,
on, and how we can actually impact that particular monitors. So I'm a full believer in the 100th monkey and all those
right,
things going on. So we
right.
can shift it, but I feel like the time is now, and we've
Yes.
got to accelerate it.
Yes, well, thank you for your beautiful work. The cover is amazing. I can't wait to read. I haven't gotten to read it yet, but I can't wait to read this. And thank you so much for everything you do. You're really out on the cutting edge, and thank you for your bravery to be candid and honest and supportive for this next phase of humanity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy. And I mean, yeah, it takes a village of light workers to shift the planet, and you're a very profound light worker yourself. So thank
Yeah.
you for your work. I'm very grateful for you.
Yeah, let the magic begin. Okay. Well,
All
we
right.
gotta
You have a
send off.
wonderful day.
Thank
And
you. You too.
all right. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you,
bye.
everybody.